Hitler's Early Life, Rise to Power, Allies, and Enemies, Part 1. Welcome to our two-part series on the life and legacy of Adolf Hitler, one of the most notorious figures in modern history. In this video, we'll be exploring Hitler's early life, his rise to power within the Nazi Party, and his closest friends and allies, as well as his enemies. Adolf Hitler was born on April 20, 1889, in Austria-Hungary. His childhood was marked by poverty, illness, and abuse, and he struggled to find his place in the world. However, his experiences would later shape his political ideology and his vision for Germany. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more amazing videos. The Early Life of Hitler. Adolf Hitler was born on April 20, 1889, in Braunau am Inn, a small town in Austria-Hungary, now Austria. His father, Alois Hitler, was a customs official, and his mother, Clara Paulsel, was his father's third wife. Adolf had several siblings, but only one, his younger sister Paula, survived into adulthood. Hitler's childhood was marked by his father's strict discipline and frequent arguments with his mother. Hitler's father died in 1903 when Hitler was only 14 years old, leaving the family with little financial support. Hitler attended a secondary school in Linz, Austria, but he did not do well academically. He was interested in art and wanted to become a painter, but he was rejected twice by the Vienna Academy of Fine Arts. In 1913, Hitler moved to Munich, Germany, to avoid military service in the Austro-Hungarian army. When World War I broke out the following year, Hitler volunteered for service in the German army. He served on the Western Front as a dispatch runner and was twice awarded the Iron Cross, a prestigious German military medal. During his time in the army, Hitler became increasingly interested in politics and became convinced that Germany had been betrayed by Jews and other minority groups. He was also exposed to the extreme nationalism and anti-Semitic ideology that would later form the basis of his political beliefs. In 1918, Hitler was injured in a gas attack and spent several months in a military hospital. While recovering, he learned that Germany had surrendered and was devastated by the news. Hitler blamed the defeat on Jewish and socialist leaders, setting the stage for his later political career. After the war, Hitler returned to Munich and joined the German Workers' Party, a small far-right political party. He quickly rose to a leadership position and renamed the party the National Socialist German Workers' Party, or Nazi Party, in 1920. In 1923, Hitler attempted to overthrow the Bavarian government in a failed coup known as the Beer Hall Putsch. He was arrested and sentenced to 5 years in prison but was released after serving only 9 months. It was during his time in prison that Hitler wrote his book Mein Kampf, in which he outlined his political beliefs and goals for Germany. Rise in Power. After his release from prison in 1924, Hitler rebuilt the Nazi Party and gained significant support through his charismatic speeches and promises to restore Germany's former glory. He also used propaganda and violence to intimidate his opponents and suppress dissent. By the early 1930s, the Nazi Party had become one of the largest and most powerful political parties in Germany. In 1933, Hitler was appointed as Chancellor of Germany by President Paul von Hindenburg, who hoped to use Hitler's popularity to stabilize the country and prevent the rise of communism. However, Hitler quickly consolidated his power and used his position to establish a dictatorship. He banned all other political parties, arrested and imprisoned his opponents, and passed laws that restricted the rights of Jews and other minority groups. The Enabling Act of 1933 gave Hitler dictatorial powers, allowing him to pass laws without the approval of the Reichstag, or parliament. In 1934, President Hindenburg died, and Hitler declared himself Führer, or leader, of Germany. He abolished the office of president and concentrated all power in his own hands. Hitler's dictatorship was characterized by his cult of personality, in which he was portrayed as a messianic figure who could save Germany from its perceived enemies. Under Hitler's leadership, Germany embarked on a massive rearmament program and began expanding its territory through conquest. In 1938, Germany annexed Austria, and in 1939, it invaded Czechoslovakia. These actions led to the outbreak of World War II, which lasted from 1939 to 1945. Hitler's dictatorship was characterized by brutal repression and violence, particularly against Jews and other minority groups. The Nazis implemented a policy of genocide against the Jews, which they called the final solution. This resulted in the murder of 6 million Jews, as well as millions of other people, including Roma, homosexuals, disabled individuals, and political dissidents. Despite his initial military successes, Hitler's leadership ultimately led to Germany's defeat in World War II. Closest friends and allies. Hitler had a small circle of friends and allies who were very close to him and held significant influence within the Nazi Party. These individuals were known as Hitler's inner circle or the Führer's bunker. One of Hitler's closest friends and allies was Heinrich Himmler, who was the head of the SS, Schutzstaffel, one of the most powerful organizations in Nazi Germany. Himmler was responsible for implementing Hitler's genocidal policies, including the final solution. He also oversaw the concentration camp system and the Einsatzgruppen, mobile killing units that operated behind German lines in the Soviet Union. Another key member of Hitler's inner circle was Joseph Goebbels, who was the Minister of Propaganda and National Enlightenment. Goebbels was responsible for shaping the image of Hitler and the Nazi Party through speeches, films, and other media. He also played a key role in the persecution of Jews and other minority groups, using propaganda to justify their treatment. Hermann Göring was another important member of Hitler's inner circle. He was the head of the Luftwaffe, the German Air Force, and was responsible for the Battle of Britain and other military campaigns. Göring was also instrumental in implementing the Nazis' economic policies and played a significant role in the persecution of Jews. Other notable members of Hitler's inner circle included Martin Bormann, who was Hitler's private secretary and chief of staff, and Rudolf Hess, who was the deputy Führer until he flew to Scotland in an attempt to negotiate peace with the British in 1941. While these individuals were very close to Hitler and held significant power within the Nazi Party, they were also responsible for some of the most heinous crimes committed by the regime. After Germany's defeat in World War II, many members of Hitler's inner circle were tried and convicted of war crimes and crimes against humanity at the Nuremberg trials. Enemies. Hitler had many enemies throughout his life, both domestic and international. Some of his most notable enemies included Allied powers. During World War II, Hitler's most prominent enemies were the Allied powers, which included the United States, Great Britain, and the Soviet Union. These countries fought against Germany and its allies to stop the spread of fascism and end Hitler's reign of terror. Political opponents. Within Germany, Hitler had many political opponents, including members of the Social Democratic Party, the Communist Party, and other opposition groups. Hitler used violence and intimidation to suppress dissent, and many of his political opponents were arrested and sent to concentration camps. Resistance movements. Throughout occupied Europe, there were numerous resistance movements that opposed Nazi rule and worked to undermine German efforts. These movements included the French Resistance, the Polish Home Army, and the Yugoslav partisans, among others. Jewish people. Hitler's most infamous enemies were the Jewish people, whom he blamed for many of Germany's problems. Under Hitler's leadership, the Nazi regime implemented a policy of genocide against Jews, known as the final solution. Approximately 6 million Jews were murdered during the Holocaust. Soviet Union. Hitler saw the Soviet Union as one of his main enemies and launched a massive invasion of the country in 1941. The ensuing conflict, known as the Eastern Front, was one of the bloodiest in history and resulted in the deaths of millions of people. While Hitler had many enemies, his brutal regime caused the deaths of millions of people and led to the defeat of Germany in World War II. The legacy of Hitler's atrocities and the suffering caused by his regime continue to be felt to this day. To be continued. Thank you for joining us for part 1 of our series on the life and legacy of Adolf Hitler. In this video, we explored Hitler's early life, his rise to power, and his closest friends and enemies. We hope you found this video informative and thought-provoking. Don't forget to share your opinion in the comments section below, and let us know what you thought of this video. We'll be back soon with part 2 of our series, where we'll delve deeper into Hitler's atrocities, his relationship with Stalin, and the rumors surrounding his death. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell to be notified when we release part 2. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you soon.